This video will show you 3 ways to attract a relationship using reality transurfing. I'm going to share with you ways and steps you can take in order to create that in your life using this powerful manifestation process. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, as I've been sharing a lot on this channel about the idea of reality transurfing, which is a manifestation process that was written in Russia by a Russian quantum physicist. It's now being translated to a whole bunch of different languages. It's kind of like the best kept secret when it comes to manifestation, or like the processes we can use to create what we want in our life. It was written by a guy named Vadim Zeland. There's 5 books in the series. What I've been doing is I've been sharing the content, the information from it, breaking it down in easy to understand ways and examples using the process itself. So first off, let me just say that what I did is I was actually recommended this book from a friend to read it. I read it, I started to apply it, and things just started happening so much easier. There's a couple concepts in the book that if you apply, it makes things so much easier for them to actually happen. And some of them actually go against the grain of what we learned with the law of attraction. And even though they do, they bring in the Eastern philosophy of detachment, of letting go, and of really just having the awareness of parallel realities, which is something I've mentioned a lot, especially in the beginning of the channel, maybe like a year ago. So now I'm kind of getting back to that, kind of explaining it, and I recommend you just to simply try it for yourself and to see if it works. Don't just take my word for it. But I've had a whole bunch of people email me since I've been sharing this process, telling me that it's been working. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep making videos on it, and this video is the 3 steps we can take in order to attract a relationship. So how can we apply reality transurfing to that of attracting what we want in the form of a relationship? Now, first off, let me say that just to give the context for what reality transurfing is, it's a process and more of a way of thinking. It's a philosophy on life and the way things work, and then within that, there is the manifestation process that we can be using. Now, first off, it comes with this awareness that there is what is called the alternative space. This is what you can think of as infinite number of parallel realities. Now, any possible it's something you can imagine when it comes to parallel realities. Any possible, it's called a variation or potential that you can imagine exists right now in this moment. Now, the idea to make it a little bit easier is even as I go like this right now, I'm shifting through different parallel realities as I do this. The only moment that exists is this moment right now, and what we think of continuity is actually the brain able to piece together the different parallel realities. Think of this like a film strip, and if we had like a film strip where the light goes through and it makes a movie, it looks like one continuous moving picture, but in the actuality, there's different frames that overlay each one, and if you were to stretch out that film strip, you would see individual different frames. Now, the idea behind this is understanding that every possible reality you can imagine, and when you think of reality transurfing, think of it like surfing through those different parallel realities. Think of it kind of like a wave, and you're like surfing on a wave, you know? There's certain principles that go into that make up what that works. Like the idea is, you know, when you think of a wave, for example, you can think of, you can have an intention to go on the next wave that you see coming up, but it's not like you're controlling every different aspect of it. You have the inner intention to go on the wave the way you want, but the idea is the outer intention is the form of the wave, and that's one of the concepts in reality transurfing. There's something called inner intention and outer intention. Now, just to get clear, the most powerful thing that you can do to create what you want in your life is to simply set more intentions. When you set intentions, that is kind of like the direction of you pulling from those infinite parallel realities. You are then pulling the potentialities from there by setting an intention. And most people just simply don't set intentions, and therefore they don't get the results that they want. Now, the idea behind reality transurfing as well is that there is something called pendulums. Pendulums are thought structures that are teamed up from other people. So think of it like this. Every time we think a thought, we put it out there, it actually has some type of electromagnetic existence. Now, we think thoughts throughout our day, and constantly we are putting something out there. Now, the idea is that other people may be thinking thoughts as well, and that is all going into the environment. Think of the collective consciousness as, in a way, having a thought bubble around the whole planet, and every time we think thoughts consistent to something else, to somebody else, those thoughts team up together, and in a way it creates a thought structure. So many times we may think that we are having the thoughts of ourselves, when in reality we are absorbing a pendulum of some belief system, of some type of ideology. You know, there's pendulums around any kind of like constructed ideology you can imagine. Like, for example, being Republican, Democrat, being for a certain sports team. There's a whole pendulum around NFL and NBA. There's pendulums around all of this, and that's why when you go to a game, you may feel the energy of the crowd where you're feeling the energy of a pendulum. Now, not all pendulums are bad, but the idea is to be aware of what pendulums may be having power over you and how to become aware of it and then decide how you prefer to live. Now, the other part we'll get into in a minute, but that gives a very general context for what reality transurfing is. And the first step you can take to attract a relationship into your life has to do a mix of two things. One, it's acting on your passion. When we create from the space of connecting our heart to our mind, what we do is we start to become the best version of yourself. And that's when in reality transurfing you have the most leverage, and you're most likely to go on what is called a life track of what you want to experience. Now you might be like, how does that relate to attracting a relationship? Well, the idea is that you get a one-on-one reflection of who you are, and if you aren't following your passion, if you aren't on that highest life stream of those parallel realities, you won't meet the person that resonates with you in that deep way. You might meet somebody that resonates with, you know, the version of you that doesn't do what they want to do for a living. So therefore, it's like there's maybe potentiality for that to grow, but at the same time, you want to meet the best person that's a one-on-one reflection for who you want to be. You want to become whole and complete already, so that you meet somebody else that's also whole and complete, so that you're not in a codependent relationship where you're bouncing and kind of reacting to the other person and playing out what is, you know, could be called karma. So the idea is to become the best version of yourself by following your heart, by following your passion, by choosing the lifelines that coordinate with you being excited to do what you do. So that's the first part. The second part of this, number one, is to set an intention. Simply set an intention that you are going to meet somebody that resonates with who you prefer to be. And as you set the intention, you are putting the direction out there. And from there, that's where everything really starts to see synchronicity in your life. You start to see things coming back. But remember, this is the important part as well. Life is like a mirror. It will always reflect back to us who we are, how we are feeling, and our beliefs that we have. Now, the thing is there is a delay process between us looking into the mirror and us seeing our reflection. So sometimes we may say, I've changed, I feel whole and complete, I don't need somebody else to make me feel happy, and there may still be a reflection that takes a while for it to adjust. Think of it like this. You know those picture frames, or like the old school pictures that you would take a picture of and then the picture would pop out and it would take a minute for it to form, to see what the vividness inside the picture? That's similar to the kind of mirror reflection we get. It takes a minute for the mirror to start to show the new reality because there is a delay process, and that delay process will take whatever time that it really takes. But if you trust it and you don't keep going back and then say, you know what, I don't see it, now I'm going to change my state of being or change my thoughts or drop that intention, then you start to scramble like an Etch-a-Sketch that picture that was forming. So the idea behind this is to set an intention and to also make a decision and a choice to follow your passion, because as you follow your passion, you start to line yourself up on what is called a life track, which is in the direction of you loving what you do and finding that person that resonates with that version of you. Now, the second point is the most powerful point in general with the reality transurfing process. Now, this idea is what is called decreasing importance. So many times if somebody wants to attract a relationship into their life, they may say, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is really what I prefer. And what happens is they may meet somebody that they start to like, but what they may do is put this person on a pedestal. They may really like them and think that it's meant to be, but the moment that you put someone on a pedestal is the moment you start to feel like you're not connected to that person. It's the moment that that person will feel off of you that kind of desperation. And you may have noticed that personally in your own life. If there's ever somebody that you really like and you put them on a pedestal, that caused resistance. And that's what this point is about. Anytime we make something more important than it has to be, balancing factors come into play to make it so that that balances out. So if you really, really, really want it, it's actually not conducive, because any time that you say, I really, really, really want it, you're also saying, I also really, really, really don't have it. So this is where you have to become much more aware of what your desires are, and this is where you can learn to create from a more of observation point of view. We're going to get more into that in the next one as well, but mostly we think of desire as such a good thing, right? A lot of the stereotypical law of attraction processes talk about how to have a white hot burning desire, and this isn't wrong. This is just a different philosophy, and it can work. Remember, all of these processes work based on the belief that we put into them. Now that can work because a lot of times desire will lead to taking action, will lead to intention, but this comes with the awareness that many times the desire can block us. So what we can learn to do is to see it as natural for us to be in that kind of experience. You know, this is something I realized. I've given this example before, but just to give you like an actual, you know, real life example of what this could mean. I remember that when I was first at like maybe 70, 80,000 subscribers on YouTube, I was thinking in my mind, you know, I was creating daily videos, I was putting a lot of work into it. I was thinking, when I get to 100 and this channel gets to 100, it's going to be this amazing feeling. It's going to be like this, you know, just this ecstatic feeling. Like maybe on a scale of 1 out of 10, I'm going to feel like a 10 out of 10, right? And I remember I went to bed one day at 98,000. I woke up the next day at 101 because there was a video that went viral. It was the Sedona video I did in Sedona on raising vibration. And I remember waking up and I was like, wow, we did it. It was so cool. This feels so good. And here's what happened. It really was just natural. I felt like it was just a part of who I was. It wasn't this high expectation of this is how it's going to feel. And that's a lot of times what we do is we put this high expectation that almost makes it so that we can't really feel into it. It was kind of just a number in my head, and then what does the mind do? The mind goes, oh, 100 is cool, but what about 150? What about 200,000? What about 300,000 or 400,000 subscribers? You see, that's what the mind does, and there's always an availability to up the ante. So this is why it's important to decrease the level of importance by knowing it's just naturally who you are. When you're following your passion, when you have an intention, it's natural for you to meet people that resonate with you there, and it's natural for you to meet somebody that you're attracted to, that you have great chemistry with. If you have that perspective, it becomes much more fluid. It becomes much more smooth. Think of it like reality transurfing. You are surfing through the different parallel realities. It's much more smooth, right? It's not something you have to force all of the time. And that's why this is about understanding that degree of observation and how to create from more of an observation point of view that is detached from the outcome, because you are already whole and complete. Now, the third step you can take has to do with actually a technique that you can apply in your life. Now, this technique is called a slide. Now, the slide technique involves understanding that there are an infinite number of parallel realities exist, that you've set your intention, that you want to move in a certain direction, that it's not that important because it's just natural for who you are. Now, this part is about knowing that there is a certain snapshot that you can start to think of. So think of a representation of what this ideal reality would look like. Maybe, and it is you going somewhere with this person. You guys are at a beach, or you guys are, you know, what would be the daily life be like, or what would you be doing if you guys went out to dinner together, you know, once a week, or whatever it is. Think of it like this, because what this does is this starts to imprint a frame into your mind that begins to pull from the alternative space. It begins to pull that reality more into your experience. Now, there's a couple keys to this. First off, don't make it more important than it has to be. This is a process that you can use, but if you use it too much and you put too much importance on it, you may create resistance. Remember, this is more about the observation of it. Now, the next part is the consistency. Do this continuously, but not too much to where you build resistance. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you do this maybe 4 or 5 times a day. And what this is a snapshot of the ideal reality of you experiencing what you want. So for me, for example, it would be me, you know, I use this in general for me being able to travel the world, share at seminars. I imagine myself in front of like a large crowd speaking, people enjoying what I'm saying, getting a lot of value out of it. Me then after that being able to go with friends to like a restaurant or something like that, and then deciding what we want to do that day in the city that we're in, and then having this like level of abundance coming through. You see, so that's an actual like picture in my mind that I can imagine. It doesn't have to be a picture too, it can be a moving picture, kind of like you're watching a movie, but the important part is that you're looking through your own eyes. You imagine it as if you're in first person and you're looking around and seeing it, versus you like seeing it as if you're like walking around your house or something. You're seeing it like you're watching a movie of you in it. So that's the idea, is to create a slide. That slide will pull from the alternative space. You can do this with the relationship by imagining yourself, in a specific scenario with your other person, the person that you're intending to attract into your life. And as you do that, you will find those things starting to come up. You will just have to simply trust the process. Trust the process. Know that there's a reflection of what you believe to be true and what your current energy is. But it's kind of like an old school picture, that it takes a while for the picture to form. You have to simply trust that. And as you trust that, everything can begin to change. Now, if you want to learn how to decrease the level of importance, if you want to learn how to wire all of these in, I've created a free MP3 meditation that you can listen to that will show you exactly how to go about this process, how to decrease the level of importance, and how to resonate with what you want to experience using NLP, using imagery, and really just wiring in all of these ideas. It's something I think is very powerful. You can get it. It's going to be in the top of the description box. And I think that if you do it for 21 days, you'll start to see profound changes in your life. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and as always, I will see you guys on the next vid. Peace, much love, and namaste.